So far from this topic, we already been covered about the GET request using Postman. In this video, we'll be talking about the post and patch method, two different HTTP methods used in web development and API communication. The distinct purpose when interacting with the resource on a server. So for example, when we talk about the post method is primarily used to submit data to be processed by a specified resources. When a client send a post request, this typically includes data within the request body. So this data is intended to process by server, which might involve creating a new resources, updating existing resources, or triggering some specific actions. So post requests are not idempotent, meaning that sending the same post request multiple times can result in different outcomes or side effects each time. For example, submitting a form on a website that creates a new user account would involve a post request. Whereas in case of patch is specifically designed for making partial updates to an existing resource. It is used when you want to modify only specific attributes or fields of a resource without affecting the rest of the resource's data. So a patch request is also includes data in the request body, but this data typically represents the changes or the update that need to be applied to the resource. So patch requests are often used in scenarios where you want to avoid sending the entire update resource to the server, basically when dealing with large or complex resources. So patch requests are ideally idempotent, meaning that sending the same patch request multiple times should result in the same outcome each time. So in summary, you can say that whenever I'm using a post, this is basically used for the submitting data for processing, which might involve creating or updating resources. Whereas in patch is used for making partial updates to the existing resources. So when we talk about any kind of data handling, both methods involve sending data in the request body, but the intent behind the data is different. So post often includes data to create or update a resource, whereas in case of patch, it includes data to specify changes to an existing resource. When we talk about idempotent, post requests are not inherently idempotent, while patch requests should ideally be idempotent. This means that sending the same patch request multiple times should have the same effect each time. So ultimately, the choice between using the post and patch method depends on the specific use case and the desired behavior when interacting with resources on the server. Maybe you are wondering in which situation a partial resource update is not an idempotent. So think a simple example. So a simple example here is the addition of items on an existing list resource, like adding a product to a shopping list, or multiple partial update requests might add the product multiple times to the shopping cart. This is a very good example of a patch request. So now we are going to push changes in the router. In order to do that, with the HTTP header, we have to put some content in the API request we are sending over. So we already have seen from the previous video retrieving configuration data by issuing a GET request, and it seems pretty clear and simple. So now we need to provide credentials, a URL accept header when making configuration changes. You also need a HTTP body for underlying API request. To start making changes to your device, you need to update few things in the request first. So we need to add the content type in the header. The header that we are using is same as Yang data plus JSON. Then we will update the HTTP request method, which is patch, and then in the body, basically we will use the configuration to update. So generally, now what we are doing, we are just changing the description of the device and the IP address using the patch method. So now we are going to replace the HTTP request type. So instead of using get, we will use post. So instead of using get, we will use patch. So now here we will do is we will change the description and the IP address. So the request type is now patch. We'll go to the header and type the content type. The content type is basically being used for using the application data. Again, we are sending as JSON, and in the body we will put the configuration. What all changes that is being we are looking for. We'll change that. We'll change the description of it. We'll change the IP address, and then see how the patch method will work in this case. And to verify this, the change has been done with the description and the IP address. Again, send a partial update and then see that whether it's idempotent or not. So the status it's showing as 201, so status it is showing as 204, no content. To verify, we will use again get and the description of it, whether it is changed or not. So description, then we'll put send, we'll get the description as devnet loopback. So we can also use this body and then we can change the description only using the description field of it. So we're using the patch, again changing the description using the Cisco ISXC native description body as a JSON format. Send the request, we got the status as 204, no content, and then we just verify that whether that is changed or not. So it will be changed. So now the description has been changed for loopback 1 and the IP address 10.1.1.1. So if I want to change only the IP address, so I can also further take down to IP/address and then get the information and then copy that, put that in the body, change the IP address there so that no error should be there, and then we can have change the IP address there itself without writing any kind of JSON. Okay, and then we'll do a patch, change the IP address. Now the IP address has been changed. To verify, we'll get to get, and then we'll see that the IP address has been changed. During the patch, the expected outcome that is being received on an HTTP status code as 204, no content. So as a response. So this status code indicates that the server successfully processed the request, but there is no new content to send back in the response. So as a part of this lesson is to explain that the answer is 200 series, means okay. So it's good what these things are and what they are doing for us. This brings us to the end for the patch method. So now we'll see that how we can create and update interface configuration using post and patch APIs. So our first task here is to add a loopback interface to our router along with the IP address and subnet mask. To do this, we are going to change our request to post request. So this is the loopback. So I can use this configuration to create a new loopback. Now we will use post method. So here what we are going to do is we will create a new loopback interface, loopback 100, with a different IP address 10, 100, 100, 100. And we are using a post method and we send a request. It means status is 201 created. And then if we go back and then we will see get to this loopback 100 is being created or not, then we'll have loopback equals to 100. Send the request and you will see that loopback 100 is being created with the status code of 200. So if we are going to use post again, then we are receiving a 409 conflict. That means object already exists. As post is not an idempotent, so we are receiving this. The same thing we can update using a patch, just an update for the resource using a patch method, changing the description to patch method. And then we will use loopback 100 because we are updating loopback 100, send the request, and it says that status code is 400. Now using the patch, we can just update our resource. So it's a patch, and then we are changing the description of it. You see the content as 204, no content. So basically patch, what it does is update the resource. So if we verify that with the get, so now it's been updated with patch method for loopback 100. We already seen that the difference in the post and the patch method. So we can say that we can use post whenever we are creating a new loopback, and a use case for patch is whenever we want to change anything, we can use patch in that. So this is what the difference between a post and a patch. Thank you for watching this video.